Hey everyone, it's been a while, huh? Let me apologize for my complete and utter absence on this channel for the past couple of years. Life sort of just got in the way and I lost time and brain space to record the making of art. Not that I stopped, as you can see I've got this and there's some other pieces I'd like to showcase eventually, but I really just couldn't focus on making videos, editing videos, getting them posted regularly. I can't promise how regular the upcoming videos are gonna be. The format of the channel is gonna change a bit. I wanna keep it a little more casual. I don't wanna take the fun out of making props and replicas. We're gonna start looking at some more kit bashing. We're gonna do some dollar store builds. We're gonna do some 3D builds, and we're gonna do a lot more repaints. This is a beautiful pulse rifle model I got off of Maker World. Has some functionality, although I need to replace this switch with a latching switch because it's currently momentary. But that's not what this video is about. This video is not about this Alien Romulus pulse rifle. No, it is about this awesome Nerf replica. First thing we have to do with any Nerf product, with any game or toy product that you want to modify, is a ton of sanding. You got to get rid of all these pieces. We're going to repaint this and we're going to go over some weathering techniques, both with marker, with washes, with spray paint, maybe some airbrush if I feel like it. I'm also going to replace the bottom of this ammunition casing. It doesn't light up properly, and I want this to be more flush with the bottom. So I am 3D printing right now a new base to replace this with, which we'll put in. I'm also going to 3D print a stand, which you'll see, and we'll go from there. So let's get started here on. Okay, so we're going to start sanding these logos off first and the raised text on both sides. Then we'll worry about the sort of the details that I just don't want to show through. We'll do a wet sand over everything. I'm going to use my rotary tool for this. You want to be careful. The rotary tool can dig into the soft plastic really easily. So we're going to take it slow. We're going to take our time. This is curved, so definitely be careful. Once we get pretty close or close enough, or I'm confident with the way the sanding is done, we'll use some sanding sticks to smooth it out, and then we'll do some wet sanding, and we'll go from there. All right, they could have put that anywhere else. Let's just say they could have put it here, they could have put it nice, big, flat space. They chose to put it on a curve. Not cool, Nerf. Could have put it anywhere else. These are nail files that I just cut up. I got them at Five Below. I actually ordered some actual sanding sticks that I think will be better, but these work perfectly fine. And it's easy. You cut them up and you can get into the detail really nicely. Here we've got some 180 grit paper. I'm just gonna chew into this a little bit faster. Again, we're gonna wet sand this whole thing in a moment, and that's gonna really help smooth it out. Wet sanding also helps keep the dust down. I like to go in a circular motion. That helps prevent any sort of patterns from forming. Another really great use of these for the sandpaper is you can put it on like a popsicle stick or a tongue depressor. Help you get a little more leverage. Doing it this way, you can get finger cramps, which is always fun. It's important to choose, there we go, nice and smooth, the right sandpaper. They come in different grits. You don't want it too toothy. You definitely don't want it too smooth. The smoothness is what's more important. You can clog sandpaper really quickly. That's part of the reason why you wet sand. It helps prevent that or slow it down at least. But if you don't start with a low enough grit, a toothy enough grit, it not only clogs really quickly, it just doesn't do the job. And once the sandpaper clogs, that's it. It's more time and energy and difficulty than it's worth. So just keep that in mind. Take your time with this. You really want to get it right. You don't want to have to paint this and sand it and paint it and sand it. At least I don't. I have very little patience for these processes, and it can be difficult for me to take the time to focus on sanding correctly or taping correctly. I don't enjoy it. It's very time consuming, particularly when doing it properly. But, you know, take a deep breath, put on some music, and just try to enjoy the process as best you can, no matter how tedious it may seem. This you don't have to worry about as much being totally gone. You want to make a dent into it because it will show up as raised. Same with this stuff once you paint over it. So just a good light sanding over it. It doesn't need to disappear, but that's really all you need. This is a needle file. I had to order some new ones. These are getting pretty clogged, but they'll help, I think, a little bit more than the sandpaper to speed up the process too. But you really want to make sure you're wet sanding with these because they can clog. I did see one YouTuber when they were modifying their Nerf, they just 3D printed, or maybe they cut out of aluminum, a piece to fit right over. It's a good idea if you can do that. We're just using a higher grip. Again, we want to get a nice tooth. I want to make sure this is nice and smooth. And we're getting ready for paint. In this spray bottle, I have 91% isopropyl alcohol. I use it on my build plates with 3D printing. You really want to clean these off well. You don't want any, or as very little debris as possible because the paint won't adhere. 91% or higher is really good for getting all the grease and oil. You really should wear gloves while doing this because you touch it after you clean it, the oils from your hands rather kind of get back on it. I haven't found that to be as much of a problem. Just wash your hands. You could always, I guess, worst case, use hand sanitizer, something that kind of dries it out, but gloves are good too. Okay, so I painted this with a Rust-Oleum flat black finish. I saved you the pain of the taping. Taping's taping. It takes time. It takes patience. Do I regret not taking this apart? Absolutely. But it is what it is. As you can see, though, I mentioned earlier that paint doesn't stick well to this. And you can see in certain areas the paint's already starting to come up a little bit just from rough use of moving it around while I was taping. I have a plan for that. It's not the end of the world. A couple of things. We're painting over this where it's coming up. I do know that paint started to come up under here. I have a black flat acrylic marker, which I will go over spots. I'm going to seal this whole thing in Rust-Oleum matte clear coat. But it's going to come up. This plastic isn't great. Using a self-etching primer really is the best way to go. I didn't have any, so I'm using a combination of matte black primer as well as Rust-Oleum matte clear coat. And that's going to help give this a good seal and really protect it. What I'm going to do is, in a weathering technique, a lot of people will paint this silver and then they will put some sort of medium down. You can use like liquid latex, you can use mustard. We're gonna use old toothpaste. And what you do is when you put the silver down, you then put paint over it and you wipe away where that medium was and it looks like chip paint. I want to wipe away from the color I'm gonna put down on this area. But I don't want it to be silver. I'm gonna try to see what it looks like with a black, matte black finish underneath. So let's go ahead and add some toothpaste and then we're gonna paint. You wanna try to think of places that it gets the most touch points. That's where you're gonna wipe away. Don't be afraid to really dollop it on. I've had times in the past where using, for example, like mustard, it dries and then it just dries under the paint, and you end up with more of a texture, which is fine. If that's what you want, we're gonna add texture anyway, but don't be afraid to really dollop this on in areas that you want it to come off. And again, think about places that the Nerf gun will get hit the most, where it'll get scratched the most. You want it to feel random. I can't stress that enough. Weathering is random in real life, right? It just happens when you run into something or nick something, and you're trying to emulate that as best you can. I'm an educator, and when I teach my students, I try to help them understand that you want to sort of resign or surrender yourself a little bit to the medium. And when you do that, I find you get far more interesting results. You grow as an artist, you learn to adapt to your work, which I think is really important when you're making art, regardless of what it is. I think you need to be flexible. I think aiming for perfection is not interesting. That's just my take as an artist. I do painting, I do printmaking, I do illustration. And the truth is, for me, I'm always far more interested in the textural elements. I'm far more interested in the medium itself and what the medium does. I am very envious of artists who can do photorealism in their paintings. I think it's gorgeous, or in their drawings. I'm not taking anything away from that. But what I tend to miss in those types of artwork is the hand of the artist. So now that we've applied a toothpaste to our 3D print, we're gonna go ahead and paint this. Now you can paint it any color you want. The film on screen, it looks olive green, but in reality, it was painted brown. Now, I like both. I'm gonna be honest with you, until we cut to the next scene, I don't really know when I'm gonna paint this. I have both colors. I have olive green, I've got brown. So we're gonna see how this plays out. I also 3D printed, as I mentioned earlier, a new base for the clip. This is also gonna get painted the same color, and it's gonna fit right here, and I'll show you how to install this once it's all done and painted. Let's go ahead and install the new clip base, because when I do all the weathering, I wanna do it with this installed to make sure it's consistent. So I think I saw how to do this online properly. Step one is just remove the screws. Okay, so once you get the last screw out, the bottom should come apart. Now, because we painted this, it could be a little sticky, so we'll see if there's any resistance. Oh, okay, so this we can just discard. You could always use it later, I guess. There are clips around the edges. I don't know how well you can see those, that you want to cut out. I'm going to use my shears and just clip these. So when you're putting this on, make sure you look at the arrow. I don't know how well it shows in the camera, but it's pointing the right direction. Fingers crossed, this slides on. I haven't tested this. Oh, cut that off too. All right, now let's give this a shot. Again, make sure I'm facing the right direction, and fingers crossed. What a fit, like a glove. There's a little bit of paint showing. I'm gonna try to take care of that in the weathering if I'm lucky. I don't want it to be visible. See a little bit scraped off here. Again, you really wanna try to get yourself some self-etching primer. I didn't have any. I think for the next round of Nerf mods, I'm definitely getting some, because the paint has just been coming off too easily. Again, sanding to give the plastic a tooth will help, but it's something you definitely wanna keep in mind. All right. I put down some paper just because weathering can get messy. So here's the Nerf. I'm pretty happy with it. I've got some really nice texture, so I want to talk about that. I've got some texture here and some different pieces built up. There are a couple ways to build up texture that I personally really lean to. One of those ways is using a gel matte medium. These gel matte mediums you can get at Michael's, you can get online. This brand is Golden, and they dry clear. You can add them to acrylics to change the way they flow. But the other thing you can do is, as you are layering it down on an object, you can use a blow dryer on it, and the blow dryer will allow it to stipple, and it'll allow it to really build up texture. So we're gonna do a little bit of that. Now, I'm not gonna use the blow dryer right this moment because it'll be nice and loud, but I'm gonna go ahead and just add some dabs of where I think gunk will build up, and it'll dry while we're doing some other stuff. Texture is really important. Just putting on powder or a wash is good, but it's not great. And it doesn't give you the realistic three-dimensionality that you might get when something's been dragged through the mud or combating aliens. And you really want to try to emulate that. I like weathering. It's my favorite part. The whole taping, the base coats, if I could have someone else do that for me and just give me a base coated object to paint, I'd be a very, very happy person. This brown, while we're doing this, was a combination of chocolate brown and olive green. And I just kept mixing it to get the effect I want. I used an airbrush. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish putting this gel medium throughout the piece. I'm gonna hit it with a blow dryer, and then we're gonna go ahead and start adding some liquid chrome. Okay, let's get started with the chrome. You can see this is already starting to dry clear, which is really nice. Some of the really high spots might stay a little more opaque. That's okay. We're gonna cover it with a wash anyway, but it's already really solidifying, which is good. So it's a nice quick effect that works well with the blow dryer. These I got off Amazon. These are liquid chrome markers. I'm gonna put some chipping or scratching on some of the black areas. I'm gonna try not to overdo it with the liquid chrome. I have a bad habit of over highlighting areas, and whether it's with liquid chrome or with rub and buff, it can overdo it, and you have to be careful. Just trying to think about where it might get scuffed. If you want to actually emulate chipping, instead of just drawing on a line, you can dab it, and again, keep it random. And that sort of emulates a little bit more chipping. And the nice thing about the liquid chrome is it is raised, so that finish gives it a little bit more of a chipping effect. It does have some dimensionality. That's something that rub and buff can't give you. Right now, the liquid chrome is really bright, and it's certainly popping, obviously in the light, but we're gonna tone it down as we add a wash to this, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, I wanna use some rub and buff just to give it a little bit more of a scratch effect. I bought these makeup brushes, which have been working out really good, but this one's a fairly even makeup brush. So I'm gonna try something today, and I'm gonna try to destroy it a little bit. I think to get that scratch effect, you really want to have it be more of a randomness to it. And so I'm gonna cut up this brush because it's just been giving too much of an even coating. Don't need a lot. This stuff goes a long way, and it gets everywhere. And once it's on you or your fingers, you really want to be careful. So I'm actually gonna rub it into the brush and then kind of clean the brush off a little bit. And we're gonna just lightly hit some of these high spots carefully, because again, this really can just layer on thick, and that's kind of it. Once it's on, it's on. All right, stop while we're ahead, because that can go downhill really quickly. Okay, so the wash. These are my three favorite colors, black, brown, and yellow. Any kind work. Ochre, it doesn't matter. They're different shades of brown, give whatever you want. I like to mix them all together, and I use rubbing alcohol to thin it out, and then it actually has like an oily wash finish, and we sort of lay it down, dab away, lay it down, dab it away. All right, spray bottle of rubbing alcohol. I'm really gonna thin this out. Again, I want it to be more like an oily finish. Just gonna use the brush to mix it up. And you're gonna see, it's got a nice wash, dirt texture. Again, think about the areas that it'll get stuck. Also, don't forget about all that gel medium we added. You really want that to catch this color. Again, we'll let it dab it away, let it sit in the corner. Be careful, the paper towels I have can leave a bit of a pattern. You don't want that. Shop towels are really good. Microfiber towels, things like that. But I have paper towels, so. All right. Again, putting it in the corners where it's gonna build up. Hiding any crimes, any overspray is always helpful. It's gonna pull back some of the liquid chrome, which is good. It's gonna pull back some of the rub and buff, which is good. Now this part, I do have the tendency to really go overboard. So I'm gonna try to be a little more conscientious about not doing that, but I can't make any promises. They also sell paint that's specifically made for wash. Builder and on Punish props, they use oil paint, which is intended to mix with water. And that has a really nice effect. The only thing I don't love about that is it takes a lot longer to dry. From time to time, it's always good to test the electronics, make sure everything's working okay. I can hear it rev up. Let's just double check. Okay, we're good. As I mentioned earlier, the reason I really like to weather props is because there's a story there. You know, whatever that is, and that's up to you. You can use different colors to convey different things. Here I'm using more of an oily color, or dirt color, building up grime. Again, and it ties everything together so nicely. And you know, if you feel like you've added too much, if it's dried on you, and you want it to take away a little bit, you could always spray this with some alcohol, and it'll come right up, which is nice. So don't feel like just because you put it down that it has to stay. It's looking good. If you felt like you took away too much chrome, you could always go back and highlight some areas if you wanted. Let's take a look. I'm happy with this. This is looking good. So the next round, once this completely dries, I'm gonna seal it one more time. And then I've got a few other mods we're gonna add to this. Okay, promise, done. Piece of tape, let's pull that up and see if I did a decent enough job at protecting the LED screen, which I actually need to add some weathering to, because that's too clean. Make sure it works. We're good. Double check the electronics. We're in good shape. All right, we're good to go. This paint's holding up well. It's not scratching from the movement, although I'm not going to risk my luck on that one. I think that's probably gonna start to scrape off if I use that too much. All right, let's let this dry with sealant on it just to make sure we're good. And then it's time to add some more mods. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, this is nice and sealed. We're good to go. Now there's the scary part. We're gonna add some pieces to this that are gonna put some holes into our Nerf prop. And kind of once that's done, there's no going back. So I have off eBay a couple of rails. I also got Target for a site. And then on top of that, I bought a strap. So let's put some holes into our prop. All right, this is the part scares me the most, is putting these giant holes in here to accommodate this strap, which sort of wedges itself in and holds itself with these little notches. All right, let's just go through and do a quick pass of weathering so that these feel like they belong. Again, we want the same narrative throughout the whole piece. And it also looks like I missed some weathering up here anyway, so fine by me. Do some passes. All right, my friends, this is looking like a proper Aliens pulse rifle. Let's double check the electronics one more time before we go to the final. Sorry, it's me again. I forgot to mention why I added the sight, as well as why this wasn't in the video to begin with. This arrived from eBay, as did the rest of the components, and I put it somewhere and completely forgot where I put it. And it wasn't until after I did the video that I found it in a backpack. So I wanted to mention it, that it was a piece that I intended to have the whole time. But the reason for these components is because it takes a lot of inspiration from the unmade Neill Blomkamp Alien sequel. He shared a picture on his Instagram of his pulse rifle concept, and it has similar pieces that are oriented in a similar sort of aesthetic manner. So I just wanted to mention why these were here and why this might be in the thumbnail and wasn't in the entire video until now. So again, thank you for joining me. I just wanted to share this. Okay, let's take it to the final reveal.